Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Elisa Slodzinska, and I work for the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, BACP. Welcome to the BACP Business Education Workshop Webinar Series. We have adapted our regular business education workshops at City Hall into these webinars until further notice. On behalf of our Commissioner, Rose Escarino, I want to inform you that business licenses can be processed online where applicable by visiting chicagobusinessdirect.org. And note that any websites or emails I mention will be posted in the chat box, so you'll be able to reference them there. If you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/businesseducation. To help guide your business and employees during Chicago's reopening process, please visit chicago.gov/reopening. Also, BACP and the City of Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications created Shy Biz Emergency Alerts. You can opt in to receive targeted emergency alerts for the business community. If you are interested, please visit chicago.gov/Shy Biz Alerts. And we encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And once again, all that information will be posted in the chat box. And today's webinar will be Effective Niche Marketing Strategies, presented in collaboration with SCORE Chicago. And with us today, we have Hannah Fernandez, President of the Chicago chapter of SCORE. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Elisa and the BACP team. We always appreciate our partnership and collaboration. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our Effective Niche Marketing Strategies webinar. If you're a small business looking for ways to stand out, especially against companies with bigger budgets and more marketing resources, then you're in the right place. As Elisa said, my name is Hannah Fernandez, and I'm the chapter chair of SCORE Chicago. And to give you a quick background, SCORE has been around as a resource partner of the SBA since 1964, providing free and confidential business mentoring for business owners across the country. So whether you are an entrepreneur or you've been in business for a long time, our SCORE mentors could help you start, grow, and scale your businesses. And to schedule an appointment with our mentors, just go to our website at chicago.score.org. Now, I'd like to introduce our presenters. Michelle Grace is the Vice President of Marketing at the Gemini Group. She has more than 20 years of experience creating integrated marketing strategies within various industries verticals, including education, IT, legal, accounting, energy, financial services, and nonprofit. She specializes in improving brand recognition, segmenting target audiences, launching new product and service offerings, as well as increasing revenues. Prior to Gemini Group, Michelle led national and regional marketing strategy for a large accounting firm where she focused on content development and lead generation. Michelle, you're on.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here to present. So I'm going to just jump right on in. As Hannah mentioned, today I'm going to talk about niche marketing and how to determine if it's an effective strategy for your business. So first we'll go through what I will cover today. First, I'll start with an overview of niche marketing. I'll talk about what it is, why it's effective for small businesses. I'll also go through some of the pros and cons and review some of the different types of niche marketing, and I'll also provide some examples. Then I'll go into steps to finding your niche. We'll talk about how to use market research and competitive analysis to validate your idea. And I'll review what information goes into both of those and how to find that information. Then I'll go into how to create a unique selling proposition and building a ideal customer profile. And then lastly, I'll review some common niche marketing strategies to get your message out. And I'll include some of the tips and benefits of each of those strategies. So let's get started. So what is niche marketing? So instead of marketing to someone who could benefit from a product or service, this strategy focuses exclusively on one group of potential customers who would benefit most from your product or service. And the reason it's effective for small businesses is because catering to a larger audience requires more marketing dollars. So that focusing on a smaller segment can be more cost effective. Another reason businesses might focus on a specific niche is to reduce or eliminate competition. A niche can help set the business apart, and it can help hook customers by catering to specific needs. Because you're focused on a smaller segment, it can also help you create stronger marketing messages and identify the most effective marketing tactics. And lastly, it can help you attract and convert quality leads because you're going after a specific group in need of your product or service. So now there's an important difference for when you say a niche market, and it's important to understand the distinction between a niche market and a niche product. A niche market is something where you're going after a specific demographic that your business will cater to. So, for example, a niche market might be going after teenage boys instead of the broader category of just men. Whereas a niche product, you're centering your business around a specific product type within a category that of same or similar products. So in other words, instead of selling just shoes, you sell adult men's shoes. It's also important to remember that there is an overlap between a niche product, because a niche product can, by nature, automatically narrow down your niche market. So, for example, a business that manufactures men's shoes will naturally cater to the audience of adult men. So it's an important distinction to note if you're thinking about a niche strategy. If you do decide to pursue a niche strategy, you want to keep these 4 things in mind. The first is you want to identify a unique need that your customer is looking for, and you want to find ways to tailor your product or service or even your marketing message to meet that need. The second thing you want to do is you want to make sure you say the right thing. You want to make sure that you understand your customer's key issues, and you want to understand how they prefer to be communicated with, because you want to market to them in a way that they know that you understand their needs. You also want to test your market. You want to assess the direct competitors in that market niche. You want to determine how you will position yourself against them. And I'll go into some details about that later in the presentation under the competitive analysis. But one of the important reasons you want to test your market is, for example, let's say you want to enter a niche and you find out there's no existing competition. Well, that can mean one of 2 things. It could mean, one, that either no one else is offering that product or service, and so it is the right niche, or it could mean that others have tried and failed in that category. So again, that's why it's important that you test the market to gauge the receptiveness to your product or service. And then the last thing you want to keep in mind is that you want to make sure you focus on a niche that's small, but that you can grow in. So for example, if in my earlier example, if you were looking at just selling men's athletic shoes, you want to make sure that there's room to grow. So, eventually you could maybe offer running sleeves or shin pads or athletic socks. So you want to make sure the niche, you'll actually be able to grow in the niche as well. And like I mentioned, you can meet the customer's unique needs through a niche market or a niche product. And there are different types of niches that you can meet. A niche can focus on a particular customer need or preference. So an example of that would be Lefties. They're a store and all they do is sell products for left-handed people. Another type of product niche could be a specialized product that has a small market. So for example, a company that only manufactures bungee cords. And then there are the niche markets that can be broken out by a variety of categories, one being philosophy. Today, a lot of customers are concerned about things like social, environmental, and political impacts. And if your customers can identify with your business philosophy, sometimes that can help them choose you over a competitor. So an example of a philosophy-based niche would be a cleaning service that only uses eco-friendly products. You can also focus your niche on a language or culture. So for example, a Mandarin-speaking real estate agent in Denver, Colorado. Again, a very distinctive audience that you would be going after. Also, by going after that smaller niche, that will also allow you an opportunity to advertise on more specific channels. So for example, if you were a Mandarin-speaking real estate agent, you might be able to look at things like ethnic radio stations, which can be a lower cost for advertising, which means your dollar could go further. So that's also another thing you would want to consider as you determine your niche. A niche can focus on a specific demographic. For example, trend-conscious teenagers or working mothers. And depending on the product or service, your price might be your niche. By targeting the low end or the high end of the market, you might be able to avoid competition. So those are the different types of niche markets. And now here are some examples of niche products. The first one is Divvies, and this is an example of a niche based on customer needs and preferences. And now there are tons of brands that sell sweet snacks and desserts, but there wasn't a product for people with food allergies or food restrictions. So Divvies saw an opportunity to serve this underserved market and developed a line of the vegan, nut-free, egg-free, dairy-free treats. So here's an example you can see. Selling snacks is not the unique idea, but by focusing on the vegan, nut-free options, they were able to differentiate themselves in a saturated market, and it also helped them to stand out and to build a loyal customer base. Another example is UNTUCKit, and this is an example of a product niche. They make shirts that are made to be worn untucked. More importantly, they solved a problem that customers didn't know they had. Before UNTUCKit, the only option you had was to wear a regular shirt and just not tuck it in. But they decided to focus on serving a specific community, people who didn't like to tuck in their shirts. And by targeting that community, UNTUCKit was able to create a new line of products that, again, like I said, solved a problem that a lot of people were having but just didn't know how to solve. And now, as with anything, there are benefits and risks to a niche strategy. One of the biggest benefits is that there is little to no competition, which means you can dominate the market. Larger companies tend to avoid the niche market just because it's not as profitable for them. It's also beneficial because it's more feasible for smaller companies who tend to have limited resources and that are in very competitive spaces, like an UNTUCKit was in the commercial clothing space. So it could be a way to, again, set yourself apart in a very competitive industry. It also can yield higher profit margins. When you own the market, you can charge more. And since it's exclusive customer base, they may be willing to pay more depending on what the product or service is. It can also help increase brand loyalty. It's easier to satisfy customers when you're providing goods and services that are either difficult for them to find or that they need. So solving a problem for your customer and doing it well can help protect you against competitive threats. But a niche strategy also has its risk. For one, by definition, a niche is small, which makes that risky. So there's the increased risk of your business failing if there's a disruption to your niche. So for example, like if there's a new technology or if a larger competitor enters the market, that could be detrimental to your business. Also, depending on the niche, there might be limited growth potential. So you'll want to make sure that there's demand for the product or service that you are offering. And lastly, less competition can result in a lost opportunity to improve. As we know, innovation comes from competition. And if you're the only brand making a certain product, how will you know how to improve it if there's not another brand pushing you? So just some things to think about as you decide if a niche strategy is right for you. So now I'm going to go into actually validating your idea. So let's say you have your idea for your niche. Now you want to conduct your market research to determine if it's viable. So whether you're a startup or an existing business, I would say market research is probably one of the most effective tools that a business can use to understand customer behavior, economic trends, and it can even help guide your marketing efforts. Every business has risk, but doing your research first can help minimize your risk early on. It can also help you better understand the opportunities and limitations of gaining customers. So to get a sense of your market, you'll want to focus on these things. First, you want to look at demand. Is there a desire for your product or service? Are there other products similar to yours already? You'll also want to understand the market size. How many people would be interested in your offering? Again, like I mentioned, you want to make sure that there's enough market potential for you to grow. You also want to consider location. Where are your customers located? And where does your business reach? Can you reach the customers that you want to? And then lastly, you'll want to look at market saturation. How many other similar options are available to customers? Again, to help you understand how you can position yourself in the market. So how do you go about conducting the research for the market? Well, there are two ways that you can conduct market research. You can use either existing sources, or you can do the research yourself and go direct to the customers. So first we'll start with the primary research or direct research. And this can help you answer questions that are specific to your business or to your customers, like what are your customers looking for? Where might they go instead of your business if they're looking for a similar product or service? And there are a couple forms of direct research. The most common form is surveys. It's also the easiest way to collect information from a large number of people. And you can execute surveys in a number of ways. You could do it after a purchase. There are also a lot of web-based survey tools like SurveyMonkey that can help you. And you can also use personal interactions to gain customer insights. The other type of primary research is in-person research, and that involves talking directly to potential or existing customers. And you can do that either in a formal or informal way. And informal interviews can be conducted, let's say you have a brick and mortar store, you could interview customers as they exit your business, or you can call your customers. Or the more formal interviews or focus groups, they require more advanced setup, and they usually focus either on a specific demographic or random sampling. Focus groups tend to be used for the larger corporations as they are a bit more expensive, but again, it's another form of primary research. And you can do focus groups with your current or potential customers. That's another key point to make. The other type of research is, like I said, existing sources. And existing sources can tell you things like industry trends, demographics, household incomes. So you can do like a Google search and check out online reports, industry reviews, magazine articles, even discussion forums and social media might yield information for you. You can also use tools like Google Trends that can tell you things like what people are searching for. So you can use it to identify new trends and maybe even draw inspiration from them. An example I like to use for that is with Google Trends, you can see if there are a ton of people searching for glow-in-the-dark cat collars and no one is selling them, there might be a gap in the market, and that might be something that you would want to consider. So again, Google has a lot of free tools, so you will want to make use of them as you conduct your market research. And then the last thing is actually the government resources, the U.S. Census data. Actually, the SBA has a list of market research resources on their website. So if you visit sba.gov, you can also see a list of existing resources. Now, to get the most out of your market research, you'll want to avoid these pitfalls. Well, the first thing you want to do, one, is determine what the goal of your research is. So what information are you looking for? Are you trying to get information on customer attitudes, behaviors, or are you trying to get information about customer service? So make sure you understand what the purpose of your research is. The next thing is you don't want to rely solely on existing sources. While that can be, existing sources are easy and inexpensive, it's a Google search. And it's effective for collecting information about a wider population, but it only gives you a partial view of your business. It doesn't tell you what your actual customers think about your business or service, which can be critical. So again, you don't want to rely solely on existing sources. And you also don't want to conduct all of your research online. As we all know, not everything on the web is truthful. So there's a lot of good and bad information out there. So you want to make sure that you're using reliable sources and look for multiple sources. If you're determining a trend, see if there are other sources that sort of validate that idea. But the biggest drawback to, again, conducting all of your research online is that, again, it doesn't answer the questions about your customers' needs. Another pitfall you'll want to avoid is only talking to people that you know. Talking only to people you know, it will skew your results. The same goes for talking only to people who use your product. It won't give you that different perspective. So you want to survey those people who don't use or don't even like your product, because that's where your most useful information is going to come from. You want to find out all the weaknesses and other potential market areas can help you improve your product. So like I said on the previous slide, the first thing you want to do is sort of determine what the goal of your research is. And there are a number of examples of ways you could use research for your business. So aside from trying to validate your niche, you could also use market research to identify new revenue opportunities. It can reveal customer segments that you never considered, or it might show you an opportunity to cross-sell or upsell. It can also be used to help improve customer satisfaction. Customers' expectations may be different from what you assume, and so the research can help determine what matters most to your customers. It can also help in setting prices. Research can reveal whether your prices are too high or too low compared to the market, and it can also tell you if a price increase is justified for your business or service. It can help you compose winning marketing messages because it can reveal which ad messages appeal most to your target audience. It can help identify a new service offering. Changing habits, taste, and needs may trigger ideas for new products or services. It can also help you test concepts. You could poll the public as to whether a brand name appeals to them, or just test any sort of concept before you launch it. It can also help you improve your website. You can collect data about what draws people to your website. You can identify the elements that they love, pieces that they hate, and learn how to improve the website from your user's perspective. So now the second part of finding your niche is that competitive analysis. You want to make sure that you understand the competitive market, who's out there. So like market research, a competitive analysis is critical because it will help you define your competitive edge, and it gives you further insight into the demand for your product or service. It could also highlight opportunities for improvement and help you understand the overall market better. So there are two different types of competitors that you'll want to consider for your research. The first are direct competitors, and these are people that sell the same product or service and target the same audience. So an example of that might be in the wireless market. Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, they're all direct competitors. And these are your most important competitors because these are the ones that you will use to define your competitive advantage. These are the people you're going to measure yourself against. The other type of competitor is an indirect competitor, and these are people that sell product or services that are similar to yours in the same market. And these people are important because, one, they could be potential partners. So let's say you sell curling irons and you find a hair care company is an indirect competitor. Well, again, that might be an opportunity for a partnership. Indirect competitors can also be used as inspiration for your content marketing and insights into new markets. So you'll want to make sure that you look at both direct and indirect competitors. So now the actual competitive analysis, what goes into it? The first thing you want to do is you want to identify your competitors. So you can do that by doing a simple Google search on keywords and phrases that describe your business. Or you could even search your business name and get a list of similar businesses that come up. So the first thing you want to do, again, is identify your key competitors. The next thing you want to do is answer the following question for each competitor. First, determine their market share. Using some of those existing resources, what's their position in the market? Also, you want to know who are they targeting. You know, you can visit their social media channels, website, sign up to receive their communications. Get a sense for who they are going after. What products or services are they offering? Is it more, less, the same as you? You'll also want to see if you can determine what their general marketing strategy is. In other words, what kind of content are they using? So look at things like headlines and keywords in the copy on their page. Evaluate the tone, the style, the length of the copy. If the copy is if there's too much copy and the website is hard to understand, again, all of that stuff matters from a competitive advantage. So you'll want to compare their website to yours and understand, the pros and cons that you both have. You'll also want to try to understand what their online marketing strategy is. How do they promote themselves? And here you want to try and unearth their content strategy. So note observations, like I said, about their website, their social media channels. How are they generating traffic? What do they post? Do they have reviews or testimonials? You'll also want to make note of their strengths and weaknesses. So what are they doing right or wrong? And strengths, you can look for things like good content or product descriptions. Are they offering any valuable free resource? On the flip side of that, what are their weaknesses? Are they responding to complaints? Is it easy to reach the business? Is their site easy to navigate? All these things factor into, like I said, that competitive edge. Do these competitors manufacture their own products? And what kind of media coverage are they getting? Again, you want to understand as much about those competitors as you can. If you're new to a market, you can also use a competitive analysis to assess your opportunity to enter a market, and it can help you identify any barriers that you might face in entering that market. So now the third step of our puzzle is developing a unique selling proposition. And this will inform your customers about how your product or service is superior to the competition. So now that you've completed that competitive analysis, developing a unique selling proposition is a lot easier because you've done the legwork through the competitive analysis. So what is a unique selling proposition? Well, it's the unique benefits that your product or service has that makes it stand out from the competition. And the reason you need it is because people have a lot of choices, and they don't know what separates you from your competitor. So your selling proposition is that statement that sets you apart, and it should be obvious, it should be memorable, so that your customers can see exactly what your business has to offer them versus the competition. The selling proposition can also help you identify, or it can make your business the better choice, and tell customers why they should choose you over the competition. So let's look at two examples of a unique selling proposition. So I took two shoe companies here, Nike and Tom's. Like I said, both of them sell shoes very differently. So Nike has a unique selling proposition that focuses on providing the best quality shoes for athletes in fitness, while Tom's helps put shoes on the feet of needy children. Like I say, both sell shoes, but to very different audiences. These are also two good examples of niche marketing. So again, you can see both of the companies sell shoes, but how different their unique selling proposition is, and that's what sets them apart in the market. So how do you go about creating your own unique selling proposition? The first thing you want to do is know who you're targeting. And now I'll go into detail about finding your ideal customer in the next section, but you want to describe your target audience here. So those demographics and psychographics, those attributes and attitudes, beliefs and behaviors, you want to map that out. The next thing you want to do is explain the problem that your business solves. So look at your business from your customer's point of view. While you know your product inside and out, put yourself in your customer's shoes and ask yourself, what specific problem am I trying to solve? What is the individual need or challenge that they face that your business can solve? So like if we go back to the example of UNTUCKit, like I said, they went after a market of people who didn't want to tuck in their shirts. And you want to remember to focus on the benefit to the customer, not the product benefits themselves. That's the most important benefit or piece of advice I can give is that, again, anytime you're talking about your product or service to the customer, it has to be in the voice of how it benefits them. Next, you'll want to list out what are the differentiating qualities that are unique to your product or service. And you want to include strengths and benefits. What's the biggest benefit a client gets from choosing to work with you that they couldn't get from somebody else? What specific benefits are your customers looking for when they're buying a product? Again, thinking from your client's perspective, your benefits should explain why your services are important for them and why they should choose you over the competition. The last thing you want to do is define your promise. A big part of a successful unique selling proposition is making a pledge to your clients. So you want to write down your promise. And to give you an example of what a promise looks like, again, we go back to our Nike and Tom's example. Nike's brand promise is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete. So again, you can see how their unique selling proposition was focused on athletics and fitness. So is their brand promise. Same for Tom. Their brand promise is to improve people's lives in different ways. So again, define your brand promise. So now let's look at some examples of some good unique selling propositions. The first one is Head and Shoulders, and they pretty much defined their market back in the 70s when they entered into the crowded shampoo market. And they set themselves apart by focusing on dandruff. Their unique selling proposition is clinically proven to reduce dandruff. It's simply put, it's powerful, and now Head and Shoulders has become almost synonymous with anti-dandruff. So you can see how the right selling proposition can help you define a market. Another example is Anchor. Anchor is a hosting and publishing platform that focuses on making podcasts. And their unique selling proposition focuses on the ease of use. So their unique selling proposition is simply the easiest way to make a podcast. By focusing on removing the barriers to making a podcast, they focus all of their marketing and sales effort around that unique selling proposition, which again, like I said, helps set them apart in the market. Warby Parker is an example of a unique selling proposition that's actually based around customer satisfaction. Warby Parker sells glasses. They're fashionable glasses at an affordable price. But they face the challenge of being an online retailer for something that people traditionally needed to try on. So they decided to offer a virtual try-on that allows people to ship 5 frames to their home and try them on for free. So their unique selling proposition solved a pain point and showed that they put their customers first and go the extra mile by focusing on that customer service. Last example of a unique selling proposition I'll give you is the Dollar Shave Club. And they took an ordinary product, razors, and turned it into an actual experience. So they deliver razors and other personal grooming products right to your door. Basically, they entered the saturated razor industry and did something no one else was doing, offered that unique, personalized experience. And by doing so, they took, like I said, that ordinary, everyday product and turned it into an experience. And to top it off, their razors are actually cheaper as well. So you can see, get a personalized top-shelf grooming routine as unique as you are. Simple yet powerful. So now I'm going to talk about finding your ideal customer or target audience. And we'll talk about why it's important to have an ideal customer and to understand what it is. So one of the most critical parts of any strategy is, like I said, knowing who your customer is. A lot of businesses make the mistake of assuming because their product or service is suitable for everyone, that everyone is in their market or is in their target audience. But unless you have unlimited marketing budget, you have to focus your efforts on customers who will provide you with the greatest value. Understanding your customer not only can help you build your business, but it can, like I said, give you a guide to developing your content and messaging and identifying new services. So what is an ideal customer? It's someone who's experiencing an issue or that your product or service can solve. And the reason you want to identify an ideal customer is because they're easy to attract, take minimal effort to keep, and typically they become loyal, recurrent buyers. But keep in mind that your existing customers, if you already are in business, might not be your ideal customer. So let's take a look at an example. So let's say you sell cars. It would make sense that you would want to target people who are interested in buying cars. But let's say you specialize in selling luxury vehicles. you might not want to target a recent college graduate. Instead, you might want to look at maybe a high-income professional who's more established, so a little older, age 30 to 50, and whose personal attributes include wanting a car as a status symbol. You can see that the latter example gives you more insight into the type of person who is most likely to buy your product or service. Okay, so now why do I need a customer profile? Well, one, like I said, knowing your customer makes it easier to reach them. Remember, people have choices, and we're motivated by those personal choices and preferences. And knowing this will help you connect with them a little bit better. Two, a customer profile can show you where to focus your marketing efforts. There's no need to stress about which social media platform you need to go on. You go where the customers are. If you're selling professional services, for instance, you probably don't want to be on an Instagram, for example. You might want to look at a LinkedIn. So again, depending on what your product or service is, depending on your audience, that can dictate what tactic that you use. The other reason you want to create a customer profile is because it can help you create the content that resonates with your customers. A lot of businesses focus their marketing efforts on how great the product or service is, but like I said, that doesn't mean anything if the customer doesn't understand why they need it. So again, this customer profile that you build will help you identify these things. So how do you get started? So let's say you say, Michelle, I'm a startup. I don't know who my ideal customer is. Well, start with who you think your ideal customer is. You can use your competition for inspiration. Who are they targeting? You can look at industry trends. Who typically buys this type of product or service? And if you're an existing business and you're not sure who your ideal customer is, you can start with who is currently buying your product or service. Like I said earlier, your existing customer might not be your ideal customer, but again, if you're not sure where to start, it's a starting point. You can use your website and social media analytics if you're an existing business to help identify the behaviors of your buyers as well. You can see who they're following, their interests, and what information they're viewing. So again, that's a place to start if you're not sure who your ideal customer is. Now, your target audience or your ideal customer should be defined by specific traits or behaviors. And this is the information that, again, it'll help you craft your message and determine where you want to market. So first, there are demographics. And this is who is buying your product or service. And this tends to focus on more of those physical factors like age, gender, location, ethnicity. Demographics tend to be more general, but they can help you when you're trying to find your customers online or in social media, if you're doing like a Facebook ad. It's also important to remember your ideal customer might not be an individual, in which case, if it's a company, then you want to, instead of focusing on demographics, you would want to focus on firmographics, which are basically demographics from a firm. So it's the physical attributes of a company. So that it would include things like their standard industry classification, their SIC or NEX codes, their company size, their location. So again, firmographics, same as demographics, if your business is focused on a service as opposed to selling to actual people. The other thing that you'll want to consider in your audience, is there any geographical slant? You know, where are your customers buying? If you're a global business, geographic is critical. But even if you're focusing just U.S. based, for example, you can take Dallas, Texas, for example. If you look at a Dallas versus an Austin, Texas, the ideologies, the lifestyle, the demographics of the two cities are very different, but all in the same region. So again, depending on what your product or service, the geographic region could play a factor as well. And then the last and probably the hardest to find is the psychographic information. And this is what motivates your customer to purchase. And it includes things like their lifestyle, their attitudes, social status, daily activities. And like I said, now it can be one of the harder things to point down or pin down, but it's critical in developing your actual messaging. Because when you can understand a customer's attitudes and lifestyles, again, it helps you create the content that resonates with them. So some ways that you can find your psychographic information. My best way to do this is through surveys or questionnaires. Just keep in mind that you might have to offer incentives for people to participate, but the best way is to ask customers, things about their lifestyle, their attitudes, to get that information. You can also use, if you're an existing business and you have a website, you can use your website analytics to sort of get to psychographics. You can look at what are they clicking on, what content do they spend the most time with, or where even the majority of your site traffic is coming from. All of those things can give you insight into the behaviors of your customers. The last thing you want to understand about your customer is their relevant buying behaviors. How do they make the decision to buy? So aside from fitting a need, what makes them select one product or service over another? You'll also want to know, like I said, where do they go for information? Are they going to certain websites? Is there a leading authority that they're going to find information? So you'll want to understand that information as well. You'll want to understand what social media platforms they're using. Again, you don't have to market across all social media platforms if your customer is only on one. You also want to understand what their preferred method of communication is. A lot of people are comfortable with emails, but again, depending on your audience, if you're going after a older audience, for example, let's say people over 65, a social media strategy might not be the best way to reach that audience. So you want to understand how they prefer to be communicated with. And the best way to understand that is to actually talk to people who meet your customer profile. Oops, let me go back. So here's an example, and I put this up to show you how impactful a customer profile can be and how it can outline your marketing strategy for you. So you'll see in this example, it shows you how a strategy can change based on the target audience. So here, the Urban Bake Shop looked at 3 different audiences. You'll see morning commuters, seasonal celebrators, and one-time weddings. You'll notice that the description right underneath shows you what kind of information you want to glean from your ideal customer. So this is the information you could use or you can find out from your survey. So you see that they come in often, they spend a little time. You can see that they've gotten to know how their audience uses their service or uses their shop. You can also see in this shop, in this example, what's important to each group is different. So you can see fast service and fresh food and coffee are important to morning commuters. And you'll also notice that how they market to them. So based on whatever is important to the customer, that dictates how they market to that group. So again, for fast service and fresh food and coffee, more in-store promotions might be the way to go. So like they say, sidewalk promotions or even loyalty rewards. So again, the point here is to show you how if you build out the right customer profile, again, it is your blueprint to your marketing. Now, lastly, I'm going to go through some of the common marketing strategies that you could use to get your message out in a niche market example. But before you start to select what vehicles you're going to use to market your product or service, you want to make sure that you start with a plan. So the first thing you want to do is set the goals and objectives. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to raise brand awareness, generate leads, retain existing customers? Depending on what your goal is, your market strategy will vary. So for example, if you're trying to retain existing customers, again, you might go for things like promotions or email campaigns. Whereas if you're trying to raise awareness, a social media campaign might be the way to go. The second thing you want to do is set a budget. So I get asked a lot, how much should I set aside for my marketing budget? Well, it depends on the size of your company, but a general rule is if your company is under $5 million in sales, anywhere from 7 to 10% of the gross revenue should be set aside for your marketing budget. If you're a startup, you can base it either on expected sales or whatever it is that you have allotted in your business plan for marketing. And in your budget, you want to make sure you include things like any tools like website development, advertising budgets, printing, design, any freelance workers you might want to hire. All of that you want to put into your budget. The next thing you want to do is develop your content or your messaging, using that unique selling proposition to focus on the customer's needs and why they need your product or service. You want to develop content that, like I said, is memorable and informative. You'll also want to remember to include a call to action. A call to action is when you tell people what you want them to do. And by doing that, you can measure the success of a campaign. Did the people perform the call of action that you asked them to do? So if you did a campaign and you say, go click through the website and add your email address, you can measure the success of that campaign based on how many people click through. The last thing you want to do is choose your marketing avenues. And like I said, you want to remember your customer in this instance. You go where they are. So now I'm going to go through, like I said, some of those common marketing strategies that you can use. It's important to keep in mind that of all of these strategies, you don't have to implement all of these strategies to be successful. Depending on your audience, you could do one of these very well and meet your customer needs. So again, you want to understand what it is that your customer is looking for. A lot of these things also can be done on your own. So even if you are not a whiz, you could use tools like Wix or WordPress, for example, to create your own website. So yeah, there are a lot of things on here that you could do on your own. Some of the more technical, the pay-per-click and SEO, you might want to consider hiring a specialist, as those tend to be a bit more technically involved. But I'll go through each of these and I'll discuss some of the tips and benefits of each. So let's start with a website. Of all the marketing strategies for a small business, I say a website is probably the most foundational, critical piece of your marketing puzzle. It's where your customers learn about your business, and it's a great place to advertise your product or service. And so some tips that you will want to keep in mind to make sure that you're maximizing the use of your website is, are you capturing leads from your website? You can do things to gain customer information, like offering customers something of value in exchange for something. So a lot of retailers, for example, now do where if you enter your email address, you get a certain percentage off. People are opting into receiving communications when they do that. So you want to make sure that your website can accommodate that. And you'll want to create, if you have that on your site, you'll also want to create campaigns that drive people to your website to sign up for materials. So again, a subscription box or something like that. invite customers to sign up. And like I said, that's a way to build your customer database. You can also use a website to build authority through your content. Don't create content solely with the sale in mind. You want to focus on producing meaningful content that educates your audience about the need for your product or service. You want to share your expertise and make your site the go-to spot for information. That's how you can sort of build that authority through content. You'll also want to make sure that you have consistent messaging. Tell them what they need to know about your business, but you want to keep it short and use visuals. A lot of text-heavy websites can be distracting and can turn people off. So you want to make sure that it's visually appealing. In fact, if you think back to some of those earlier examples when I was showing some of the unique selling propositions, you'll notice how clean those sites were, where the headline was their unique selling proposition. You'll also want to make sure that you display contact information. It's amazing that a lot of people tend to forget this one, but if you're in a business, especially if you're selling something, you want to make sure that you have contact information that's easy to find on your website. You don't want to bury it at the bottom because, believe me, people won't go looking for it. And you don't want anything that will take people away from your site. So make it easy and visible for people to see. Again, like I said, especially if you're selling something on your website, by not having that number, that can negatively impact your customer service. And the last thing you want to do is make sure that your website is mobile friendly. One, as a lot more people start to use mobile as they search for websites, you want to make sure that it's formatted properly. It's also important if you want to execute an SEO strategy. Your mobile friendly, the search engines are based on the loading of your mobile site. So you want to make sure that it's, like I said, mobile friendly. So search engine optimization. If you have a website, like I said, search engine optimization is a way to drive traffic to your site. And the main way people find content online now is, as we know, through keyword searches. And SEO simply means making your website pages more likely to get ranked on a search engine, and a search engine like Google or Bing, actually. And the way you do that is to optimize your website content to include those keywords and phrases that people are searching for. And there are several benefits to an SEO strategy, the main one being that you get the right traffic to your site. Because you are, because it is based on those keywords that people are searching for, people will find your business as a result of searching on that particular term. So you know that they are interested in at least that product or service in some way, shape, or form. So an SEO strategy can bring the right traffic to your site. A well thought out strategy can also help you go toe to toe with some of those bigger players, like I said, who might have a larger marketing budget. If you have a well thought out SEO strategy, again, you can get just as much traffic without having to spend all of the advertising dollars to drive that traffic. And if you decide to pursue a niche strategy, you'll want to focus on these areas for your SEO. The most important is the relevant keywords. Google search algorithm relies solely on those keywords. And those are like I said, the words and phrases that people are searching for. And if you don't know don't know how to come up with those keywords, there are tools like Google's Keyword Planner and SEMrush that can help you identify words and phrases that customers might be using when they're looking for a business that's similar to yours. So it can give you some ideas on those keywords that you could use. Once you've identified those keywords, you want to make sure that you edit all of your website content to include those keywords and phrases. And you want to actually take that beyond just your website. You want to integrate those keywords into all of your content. So if you write a blog, if you do emails, even if you do advertising, and the content there should all be focused on those keywords, because again, all of that is going to drive traffic back to your site. You'll also want to use custom visuals, anything that accentuates the branding and appeals to the specific niche can help your SEO. But you'll want to make sure if you are using visuals that you stay away from stock photography. Again, because it is based on the customization, you want to make sure that your visual is also unique. So, like I said, stay away from the stock images. Another thing that would be important are the meta tags and image descriptors. Now, meta tags are the content descriptors that help the search engines know what's on the website. So it helps the search engine understand the content on the web page. And you want to treat your meta tag descriptions and your image descriptions as if they're an advertisement for your web page. Make it as compelling and as relevant as possible. Again, these are the things that are going to help you get pop to the top of the search rank list. Another important part of any SEO strategy is actually the link building. Search engines use it to determine how trustworthy and relevant your content is. So basically, there are 3 types of links that you want to make sure that if you're going after SEO strategy that you have. The first are called inbound links, and this is where a trusted third party links to your links, includes a relevant link to your site and a piece of their content. So let's say, for example, I wrote an article on content marketing and the Content Marketing Institute included a link on their site. That is perceived in the search engine world as a better link than if a random person put it in link to that same content. So you want to make sure that you're going after trustworthy sites. Another link that they look at are the outbound links to show that you're creating quality content. And this is where you link to relevant content on authoritative sites. So outbound links should only pull from reliable sources, those trustworthy sites. And then the third is actually those internal links. Linking to your own content can help tie pages together for Google and visitors. So like your site map, making sure that every web page on your website has a description. And a tip that I like to give for any SEO strategy is that you want to make sure that you constantly monitor to see the amount of traffic that you're getting from your SEO strategy. You want to understand where it's coming from and which of your keywords are working the best for you. You can come up with keywords, all of them will not perform the same. So it's important to keep tabs on how your keywords are performing so that you can change them in and out as you need. One of the most effective ways to probably nurture your business is social media, because it allows you to talk directly to your customers. So the thing that you want to do in a social media strategy, like I said, first is to determine which platform your audience uses. And you want to consider how active your audience is on that platform. So for example, a lot of young people have profiles on Facebook, but they're far more active on Instagram. You'll also want to remember that you can choose different social channels to reach different audiences. So depending on what your strategy is, you might have a Twitter and a Facebook in your social media plan, but you could use those channels to reach, like I said, two completely different audiences. And if you are doing the social media your own as the business owner and it's intimidating to you, you're not certain about social media, just start with the one channel. Don't feel like you have to go to all three or all of them and master them at once. You also want to make sure that you're delivering the relevant content by platform. So each platform attracts, like I said, a different type of user who are looking for specific types of content. So like an Instagram or a Snapchat are more visually orientated, whereas a Facebook or a Twitter are great for like starting conversations or places where you can provide more thought-provoking content to spur engagement. So keep those things in mind. You'll also want to plan out your posts. The most critical part of any social media strategy is consistent posting. That is how you engage your users. So you want to develop a content calendar that outlines what will you post, when will you post it. You want to plan all of that out. And as a general rule, when you're developing your content, it's an 80-20 rule. You want 80% of your content to inform and educate your users, while 20% of it should promote and sell the product or service that you want. The other important part of a social media strategy is making sure that you engage with your followers to build those relationships. One of the unique benefits of social media marketing is that it, like I said, allows you to talk directly to customers. So like or share your followers' post. Ask them to like and share your post as well. Dialogue with your followers to garner more engagement. You can do things like run polls and request feedback on certain things. You could even tag people or companies to grow your following. Consider leveraging user-generated content. So depending on what you sell, let's say you sell jewelry, you could ask people to post pictures of themselves wearing your jewelry. That's user-generated content, and that's one less thing that you have to create. So think about ways you can incorporate that into your strategy. It's important to note that a social media campaign can also support your SEO and website initiatives. So remember that as you try to develop your content for your social media posts, to focus on those keywords and phrases from your SEO strategy as well. Pay-per-click ads are a good way of bringing visits to your site. So basically, you pay a fee each time someone clicks on your ad. Similar to SEO, a pay-per-click ad is different in that they're still ranked, but if you think on Google, there are two sections. Your pay-per-click ads are the ones that appear at the very top, and they even have ad or sponsored next to them. When you click on that, like when a person clicks on that, like I said, you pay the fee for that. It's a cost-effective way to connect to your customers, and it's a quick way to actually generate traffic to your site. One of the biggest advantages of a pay-per-click is that you can see the results immediately. Because your ad is only seen by potential customers who are searching for those keywords. Compared to an SEO strategy, a pay-per-click can be more reliable because, first of all, with a pay-per-click, you're always at the top of the search results. So more people have the chance to see your business. Whereas in an SEO strategy, you're ranking. There are a lot of factors that go into where you appear in that ranking in an SEO strategy. So like I said, pay-per-click gets you straight to the top of that search result. So how it works, like I said, you determine the keywords and phrases that you want to trigger the display of your ad. And then there's a bidding process. It's basically anywhere between $1 to $2 per click. So some tips if you want to start a pay-per-click campaign. First, start small. It's easier to track analytics if you're only focusing on one campaign. And as you get more accustomed to the way pay-per-click ads work, you could add more campaigns to the mix. You also want to make sure that you research and select the right keywords for your pay-per-click ad. You want to make sure that you're being specific and staying away from some of those broader keywords. Those broader keywords doesn't mean that you're going to reach more people. It just means it's going to cost you more. So for example, if you said your business you defined your business as restaurants in Chicago. Very broad term, no distinction in what type of restaurant. Whereas if you change your keywords from restaurants in Chicago to Italian restaurants in Addison, Illinois, again, you can see where the latter, if you're an Italian restaurant, is going to bring you more relevant traffic. So again, you want to make sure that you research and select the right keywords so that you don't waste money in your pay-per-click ad. And each platform is similar to, like I was saying, with the Google keyword, each platform, so Twitter, Facebook, they also have tools that can help you determine keywords as well. An important part of your pay-per-click ad is making sure that your landing pages match your intent. In other words, make sure that you're sending your visitors to a destination that helps them find what they're looking for. If you have an ad for a glass vase and you direct them to your website and you just direct them to your home page, you can lose them. So you want to make sure that the intent where you send them actually matches the ad. And pay-per-click ad campaigns require that you test and make changes to those ads so that you constantly make sure that you're receiving the best benefits. Email marketing is probably one of the easiest ways to show customers that you value them. The more value you can provide to your target audience, the more they'll look forward to, one, hearing from you. And when that happens, it's easier to get them to engage and then to do what, perform the call to action that you're asking them to perform. Some of the benefits of an email marketing campaign is the conversion and increased sales. If you have a new promotion people can click on and links follow directly to that call or follow your call to action immediately, again, it's a quick way to convert people into sales. Two, with an email marketing strategy, you can segment your mailing list and even personalize your messages to help boost engagement. So, for example, you could send a welcome email after somebody signs up to receive information from your website, or you can send them an email after they maybe abandon a sales cart. Maybe you could offer them a discount to finish their purchase. So there's a lot of personalization you can do with an email campaign. Email campaigns are also permission-based. Your marketing list is made up of people who have actively chosen to receive your email communications. And so, again, it makes it easier to engage with them. An email campaign can also it's a flexible design. So you can send things like a plain text, graphics, or even attach files to an email, whichever suits your audience best. Emails are also measurable. You can evaluate the success of a campaign by using web analytics. You can even test different copy or subject lines to see what's more appealing to your audience. It's also easy for people to forward and share your email content, so it can also work as a sort of word of mouth in building your reputation and get new followers to your brand. But the one tip I give on email marketing, don't abuse your list. Sending too many email will lead to unsubscribes, and then, again, you'll diminish your marketing database. Video marketing. Video marketing has become very popular over the past couple of years, and there's even a study that showed prediction that 80% of the content online this year in 2020-21 will be video. More people are watching it. Videos appeal to all age groups. So there are multiple ways you can incorporate a video into your marketing mix. For one, all of the social media platforms have some sort of video component. So there's Facebook Live, YouTube has videos, Instagram, and even TikTok has become very popular now. So how do you use the video? You can repurpose your most popular content in a video. So let's say you wrote a blog. You could turn that into a video, and users who may have previously passed on your blog because they didn't want to read it, maybe now they'll view it because it's in video form. You could also put the video on your landing page so that when users visit your site, they can absorb the message with little or no effort. So basically, it's the first thing that they see when they come to your site. And by having it on your website, on that landing page, also can help increase the number of visitors you have to a page. Again, it's a lot easier for people to view video than to read. You could use live video to actually interact with your customers. Let's say you could do a Facebook Live and host a Q&A section. One is a great way to help you appear as an authority, and it's a quick and easy thing to get done. You could also use teaser videos to spark interest. It can help keep users engaged, and they can even be as short as 3 seconds and still be effective. So the example I like to give here, let's say you owned a restaurant and you came out with a new menu item. You could film that a video showing that new dish, and to make it interactive, you could even create a mini contest around that teaser video, asking people to guess what that item is. Again, things that you could do using video and boost engagement at the same time. Lastly, you could use video. You could record it. So depending on what your business or service is, you could teach your customers how to use your, like I said, product or service by just simply recording your screen in a tutorial. Like I said, a quick way for them to learn about your business. Print advertising, I promise this, print advertising and then partnerships. Print, I would say, is probably a great way to reach a local audience, and it also has a higher engagement than digital. Some of the benefits of a print advertising campaign is that, one, print readers have longer attention spans. Our brains process information differently, whether we're reading something online versus in print. And since there are fewer distractions in print, readers can become more engrossed into the content. So print ads also can help drive memory. Research has shown that the simple act of holding a magazine or paper can help your brain form connections and increase memory. So especially in a print campaign, if you sell curling irons and you run an ad in a hair care magazine that's talking about the latest styles for the summer, again, people are more apt to remember your ad because it's been all packaged together. Print advertising can also create true engagement. Most marketing is passive, so where the images and sounds are thrown at you and either you pay attention or you don't. Somebody who's reading a magazine has consciously chosen to engage in that magazine. They have to physically turn the pages and look for the material that they want to read. So again, it's far more involved. One of the biggest drawbacks, however, is that it's harder to measure the success of a print campaign. It's virtually impossible to prove how many people saw your ad in print and then actually went on to make the purchase. So it can have that drawback. But again, if you're a hyper-local focused business, print advertising is a great way to reach customers in local or even rural areas. People who live in rural areas tend to rely on local newspapers for their information over, say, an online portal. Like I say, if your business has a local twist, local publications tend to be a lot more affordable than running an ad in a national publication. Because those smaller publications are also affordable, it'll also allow you to run in multiple issues as opposed to the one and done. In any advertising campaign, you want to make sure that there's consistency. You can also advertise for local events. So traditional print marketing channels are the best way to promote local events. You can use things like banners, flyers, newspapers to attract attendees. And if your customer is less digitally engaged, obviously print would be more effective for them. Partnerships. Partnerships is an effective strategy because, one, it offers you twice as much exposure. So by partnering with either a person or a business in the area that you're interested in selling to, you're able to introduce your product, like I said, to a new audience. Partnerships, though, they have to be mutually beneficial to both parties. So before you approach anybody to partner with, make sure that you can convince them why they should partner with you. Make sure that you understand the benefit to both parties. And you can team up with them to do things like a special event or promotion. But when you go to pick your partners, the one thing you want to do is make sure that you vet different businesses. You don't want to go with the first one that you meet. Because you want to see what's out there and who has the most to offer your business. And before you start any sort of co-marketing efforts with a partner, you want to make sure that you clarify expectations and assess how you will work together. Make sure everybody understands the role that they play. And make sure that you have several conversations before you make anything official in a partnership. So now, I'll wrap up with some of the key takeaways to find your ideal niche. You'll want to keep these 4 things in mind. The 4 characteristics of an attractive niche. The first thing is, 1, they're easily identifiable customers. So the sign of a good niche is that it should be easy to identify who you would do business with. If you can't put your ideal customers into a segment, then again, it makes it that much difficult. For a niche to be profitable, your potential customers must be easy to reach, and reaching them must be affordable. So let's say you created a solution and it only appeals to goat herders in outer Mongolia. Well, that's a hard to reach customer, so that would not be a niche for you. You want to, like I said, make sure that it's a group or a segment that you can reach easily. You also want to make sure that your niche serves an underserved or neglected market. Again, in order to stand out, that's what you'll want to focus on. And lastly, your market and your niche should be large enough so that you can make money selling your product or service. So now that it's time for you to go find your market niche and the characteristics of an ideal niche. Like I say, the steps that you'll want to take to define your niche are, 1, define what is that unmet or unserved need. What is that pain point that you solve? Second thing you want to do is, again, identify that ideal customer. Who are you going after? Make sure you research your market and your competition so that you know where you fare in the market. Make sure that you create a plan that includes your budget and what tactics you'll use to reach your customers. And then lastly, you'll want to make sure that you market your business using the tools that your customers deem important. And the other thing I should say, my last bit of advice is that in a niche strategy, just remember that your first idea may not yield the results that you want, so you must constantly monitor and adjust your strategy as needed. And that is the end of my presentation. I will turn it back over to see if there were any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Michelle. That was extremely thorough and, from what I see, very helpful to our attendees. Thank you.
Good.
And we did have several questions come in. We only have time for about 5 minutes worth. Michelle, do you have contact information in case we don't get to all the questions?
Yes, I can send that. Yes.
if you just want to tell me an email address or website.
You can do my email. You can use my SCORE email, michelle.grace at scorevolunteer.org.
Okay, and that was just posted into the chat for everyone to have. First question is, any suggestions on how to determine price point for a new product?
A price point. The first thing I would say, again, you want to look and understand sort of what, depending on what the product or service is, what are people currently charging for it? So see if you can identify, are there any competitors or anybody similar that offers something, or a business that offers something similar that can at least give you a starting point for identifying your price point. But yeah, the best advice I can give you on that is the market research.
And really quick, I see questions coming in about this presentation being available later. It is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Chicago BACP, and I'll post that in the chat box as well. Next question, Michelle, is for email marketing, can you explain what a sales letter means? I came across this term in my research and didn't fully understand what it meant.
A sales letter. That could, I'm not sure in what context it was referencing, but sales letters can mean different things to different people. So the first thing I think of is in relation to partnership. So let's say you found a partner or a business that you want to partner with, you might send them a sales letter, again, sort of positioning why they would want to partner with your business. That's the only thing I can think that might reference. But again, sales letter can mean a lot of things to different people depending on the context.
And how do you ask a business to partner? Is it formal, contractual, a lawyered agreement?
It depends on you and your business and your relationship with that potential partner. I always say, again, depending on the relationship, the one thing you want to make sure that you understand is what that benefit to that partner is. So how they will benefit from partnering with you. So whether you do that formally with a lawyer, again, it's your relationship to that partner. If you know them, again, you probably don't need to be as formal in the beginning. But yeah, that would be the best advice I could give.
If you're a small to medium-sized company with a limited budget, which marketing strategy do you recommend to drive conversion? Email marketing, video marketing, etc.
All depends on who your target audience is. Video could be useful. I would say video will probably be the most universal, email as well. But like I said, it depends on who you're going after, as well as their lifestyle. How do they consume information? Again, not everybody uses social media. Some people don't like email or email marketing. So yeah, it's not easy enough to just say these are the tactics that are most beneficial. It's all going to depend on what's relevant to your customer.
Someone's asking, aren't PPC ads expensive? Is there a way to find out how much it will cost before setting one up?
So no, there is no way. There is an average, I say, between 500 to 1,000 is what I generally tell people to factor monthly for a PPC ad. But again, it depends on how many ads you have. It all comes down, the success of a PPC ad is all in those keywords. Yes, if you pick the wrong keywords and you go with those broader phrases, it can be expensive. So my advice there is definitely using an expert that can help you with those keywords so that you do keep the cost down while still being effective.
This person has a line of black greeting cards that are carried in grocery store chains. They're on social media, but want to focus more on brand awareness to let the Black community know they're in the grocery stores. Would social media be better than print?
That depends on your budget. So if you don't have a budget, a marketing budget or extensive budget, social media obviously is the more cost-effective way. If it is the fact that you're just trying to create awareness that the product is in the stores, I wouldn't necessarily consider print advertising. That's a heavy investment for an awareness. So in that instance, like I said, unless you have unlimited budget, a social media might be more effective because that's a free way to get a free to low cost way to get your brand awareness message out.
What are your thoughts on Google Ads?
Thoughts on Google Ads? That's a broad one. Like I say, they can be useful if done properly. That's the hardest thing. There are so many factors that go into Google's search engine ranking that it's nobody outside of Google knows what all those two factors are. So yeah, that in of itself makes it a little bit harder.
Got it. And we are going to end with this question, is what additional resources do you have for niche marketing? Obviously, this webinar is being recorded and can be viewed over and over, but what other recommendations do you have for someone who's looking to expand their marketing?
So I don't know that there are any sources I could say that I could send you to for a niche marketing strategy, but there are several. If you just Google niche marketing strategies, there's tons of content out there. But yeah, I don't know. Aside from this presentation, I don't have a specific resource I could give you.
And I do want to end with, this presentation was absolutely informative. Thank you so much for presenting for our webinar, Michelle. It was very helpful. Thank you. And joining with us is Hannah with SCORE Chicago. Hannah, do you have any words to say to our attendees?
We wanted to thank, first of all, Michelle and you, Elisa, Geraldine, Thelma, and the whole BACP team. I always appreciate the teamwork. And to those who joined in today, thank you for taking the time to really listen in and invest in yourself and your business growth. And what I always say is the fact that you're here today shows all of us that you are really serious about your growth and continued success. But remember, you're not alone. The City of Chicago, BACP, and SCORE Chicago are all here to support you. So please stay connected with us. Keep attending these webinars and schedule an appointment with our mentors at SCORE. The mentoring sessions are always free and they're confidential and can be scheduled at chicago.score.org. And I hope that you connect with all of us again. Stay safe and well.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And I did post the SCORE website in the chat box. It is score.chicago.org. We highly recommend connecting with SCORE mentors. They're entrepreneurs in many industries that could definitely help you either start or grow your business. So thank you so much, Hannah. Michelle, thank you again. And to all of our attendees, thank you for joining us. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay well.